Hey everybody, Bearded Rogue here, and today I want to talk to you about something that I'm super excited about. It's something I've been waiting for quite some time for, and this right here, I feel like I should be doing the 2001: A Space Odyssey music as the monolith comes into view. This right here, which is big enough to cover the camera field of vision entirely and is very heavy, is my Sentinels of the Multiverse big box. This holds everything Sentinels of the Multiverse inside of it. To give you some idea, it's replaced 5 boxes of cards. The original Sentinels of the Multiverse, which originally had all my heroes in it. The Sentinels of the Multiverse Rook City and Infernal Relics, which had all of my standard villains and environments in it. The Sentinels of the Multiverse Vengeance box, which had all of my Vengeance style villains, the teams of villains stored inside of it, along with all of my large cards and tokens. And the Oblivion, my Villains of the Multiverse set, which was actually stored in Vengeance, so it was mostly an empty box. And then my Oblivion box, which actually came with this big boy here to complete my Sentinels of the Multiverse set. Now, for those who don't know or haven't watched before, Sentinels of the Multiverse is one of my top 3 games of all time. I absolutely love it for multiple reasons. I love the gameplay. I love the co-op nature of it. I really enjoy superheroes and always have. So having a co-op superhero game instead of a competitive superhero game just makes a lot of sense. I really love the diversity in the cast of heroes. There are, disabled heroes. There are black heroes. There are heroes who are not American. There are heroes who are not human. There are gay heroes. There are agender heroes. There are gender fluid heroes. There are heroes with mental health issues. Even the villains in the latest set, Oblivion, even the villains get a chance as heroes. So there are even redeemed heroes. There's a robotic artificial intelligence hero. Much like Netrunner, which is up on the shelf here, diversity is expressed in this set in multiple ways, and this game does it better than any on the market as far as I'm concerned. There are a few things here or there that might be a little problematic. I know that Haka, the original subtitle for him is The Savage Haka, and him being an Aboriginal people's that's kind of a upsetting way to put it. But the character itself is very respectfully done. The other versions of Haka are very much outside of that noble, savage, warrior stereotype. The character itself is not a stereotype. It just so happens the title used for him is. Since Sentinels tries to be a comic book company. Like, all of the comic books are fictitious. There are only a couple of actual comic books set there. But they tried to kind of keep that kind of continuity. So there's, the heroes that were created in the 90s Extreme era, and they're a very different flavor than, like, Legacy, who's like the World War II era Superman, Captain America-esque type hero. They just kind of keep that flavor because it's really a celebration of comics, all eras, Golden Age, Silver Age, Modern Age, 90s, all of it. It's a full-fledged celebration of comic books, and if you like comic books, then I highly recommend this game. If you like co-ops, I highly recommend this game. If you like card games, I highly recommend this game. I know it's not a fit for everyone. Some people don't like all of the combinations that happen and all of the small math that's required, or keeping track of multiple things with your hero and with the villains, which are all run by the game. They're basically an artificial intelligence that runs itself. You just have to physically do whatever the cards tell you to do. There's not a player playing the villains. So, There are a lot of things about the game that other people I know do not like, but none of them are deal breakers for me. I absolutely love everything about it, and this right here is the new home for my entire collection. So I kind of wanted to show this off a little bit. I can't fit it all into the camera. It's got the nice silver embossing here, the foil here. Speaking of which, the only thing I do not own for Sentinels of the Multiverse are the foil cards. I'm not a huge fan of foils. They're hard to read. They're just kind of like collector's items and really neat, but I didn't need them mechanically because I already owned everything ever released. I have all the promo characters. I have all of everything. So mechanically, my Sentinels of the Multiverse is complete. I don't have the foils because they were just an alternate art variant of what I already have, and so I didn't spring for those. I may in the future. I know they're limited release, but they're not high on my priority list. The mechanical bits are what I really care about. So let me go ahead and show some of this off. I'm gonna set this big heavy thing back on my table. So the first thing you should note is that they had to redesign this a couple of times because a box this big falls apart, especially when you fill it full of as many cards as Sentinels of the Multiverse is. So this is how it opens, is on the side. And so you can see there's this really cool Sentinels of the Multiverse comic books, like the faux comic book covers and everything that they put on there. And then it's a series of drawers. So this drawer right here, this big drawer, is where all the rules are, all the rules booklets and everything that came with the various editions of the game. And then there are these smaller drawers right here. So this drawer right here has all of the oversized villains and tokens. As you can see, the drawer just kind of goes on forever. Like, even there I can't get all of it really in the frame. But this holds all of my tokens, and then underneath these are all of the villain cards. So in here are all of my Vengeance style team villains, and in here are all of the Oblivion specific things. I actually have a spot here that's wide open. I don't know what I'm going to put in there. Maybe the foil villains if I ever get it. And then in here I have the standard oversized villain cards. For those who haven't seen them, all of the villains have basically a larger than tarot even size card that has one side that features all of their starting stuff, and then another side. Most villains typically have a second side where they go through a change at some point during the game. Sometimes they'll change back and forth, sometimes it's just a single change. It just depends on the particular villain. Since it is a game with a lot of variance in it, all of the villains are completely different. It's got a ton of replayability because every game you choose a villain and you choose an environment, and that totally changes how the game plays. In addition, all of the heroes change things. So then in here is the first box for the heroes, as you can see there, and I've got a lot of my heroes in here. The big box actually came with large cardboard dividers. The regular game already had dividers for all the characters, so I just slotted those in along with the new dividers. I put everybody in alphabetical order. There's also a section for variant character cards, and I like to keep the variants of the various characters with their decks. So, like, this is Absolute Zero here. And Absolute Zero, for those who don't know, when you play a character, you'll have one deck that's specifically yours. You don't construct it. It just is that character's deck. And then you'll have a card that basically represents you. And that card has, like, hit points, which looks like the issue number of the comic book cover that is your character card. And then a power that you just inherently have in play. And each character, or a lot of the characters, I think every character in the game, yeah, every character in the game has at least one variant. Now, storyline-wise, it may be a different character with the same title, which is an option, because comic book characters evolve and change. You'll see different variations of the same character, or you'll see one character who's passed down a title to another character, or a character who's now a robotic version of a previous character, all of that sort of things. So all of them represent a different period in that character's life. So this was the Absolute Zero that comes with it. And then here's the Absolute Zero variant. Slightly different. He has fewer hit points, but he has a power that's less oriented to hurting himself. And then here's the what is this? The Termination Absolute Zero, who I believe is the Absolute Zero from the Iron Legacy universe. And then we have the Freedom 5 Absolute Zero, who is the latest promo that I got that I haven't played with yet. And his ability is Power Absolute Zero deals himself 2 fire damage. If he takes damage this way, search your deck for an ongoing card and put it into play, then shuffle your deck. So he can hit himself to search his deck, which is pretty cool, since the original one just deals himself 2 damage. 1 fire damage and 1 cold damage. His deck has all sorts of ways of manipulating that, so when he takes fire damage or cold damage, he can then redirect it out to where you want it. This guy deals 1 non-hero target 2 cold damage, so he just directly has a damage dealing power. And then this one is, until the end of your next turn, increase all damage dealt by and 2 Absolute Zero by 2. So this one pumps up his damage abilities, but also makes him take more damage when he takes it. So these 4 character cards all belong to one of the many characters. And whenever you choose to play that character, you can pick any of these cards, only one of them, to be the one that represents you for that particular encounter, for that particular fight. So each character has at least 1 variant. Several of them have a ton, but this is 1 box of heroes, and then there's another box here for heroes. Again, each one of these is a separate deck. Each player will have their own deck, so they're all of the heroes. And then here we have the villains, and I have these broken up in a couple of ways. So first, right here are all of the cards that deal with the new Oblivion expansion. Oblivion is like a mega villain, like a universe ender. And so he actually changes the entire rules of the game. I have not played a Oblivion-style game yet, but basically you can use all of the heroes in an Oblivion game. When a hero dies, you just bring another one in. There's an alternate end condition for the game. It's one other thing I forgot to say about the heroes. For those not familiar with Sentinels, if somebody loses all of their hit points and are knocked out, they flip over to their incapacitated side, and they still have abilities that they can use to help the team every round. So when their turn comes up, they're not completely out of the game. They can continue being part of the discussions. They can continue helping the team, just in a reduced capacity. Which is really cool. But Oblivion changes the rules of the game completely in a very interesting way. And then we have a whole bunch of villains. This is only about half of the standard villains. And then inside the last drawer here, which has this, we have the villains and environments. And in this one, we actually have all of the villains that are vengeance-style villains. So the standard villain, not Oblivion, but the standard villains, there's 1 villain card with 1 villain deck in play, and it takes its turn at the very beginning of every round, and then all the heroes take their turns, and then the environment takes its turn, and then it starts over with the villain again. The vengeance-style villains are actually smaller villains. They're weaker villains, but they are a team. So they actually take turns before each hero. So you'll get one vengeance villain, a hero, a vengeance villain, a hero, a vengeance villain, a hero, and then the environment at the end, and then it'll start back over with the first vengeance villain again. So it's a little bit more complicated, but it's yet another mode to the game. All of the modes in the game are co-op. There is no competitive version of Sentinels of the Multiverse. I am A-okay with that. I'm not a big fan of competitive superhero games. I think it kind of breaks the genre, unless somebody's always villains and somebody's always heroes. Heroes fighting each other is very not interesting to me in the grand scheme of things, and so that's why this is my superhero game and not something like, say, Legendary, because the semi-co-op nature of that really kind of wrecked it for me. Had that been completely co-op, it would probably still be on my shelf. But yeah, so those are the drawers. Like I said, the rules booklet, the oversized villains, and the tokens. 2 heroes drawers, 2 villains drawers. One of the villains drawers also has the environment. So again, just a look at the front of this. So you've got the rules and all the different drawers, and then this right here for stability, because this thing is gigantic. So the way it closes is actually really cool. You've got this flap right here that, as you can see, has like little magnets in it. You fold this up, and then you fold this down over the top of it, and it closes. So it just stays closed that way via magnets. Oops, yeah, this sucker's heavy. It's very, very heavy. It's easily the heaviest thing I own now, game-wise. I've had con hauls that are lighter than this. To be fair, it's 5 boxes of cards this size, and each one of these has... Let me open this up. Each one of these has dual rows for cards. These are some of the greatest boxes ever made for card games, as far as I'm concerned. Like, just the 2 rows of cards that you stick cards in with dividers, which is why I never got rid of them. I'm probably still not going to. These will be great for prototypes or various things like that. Plus, the artwork is fantastic. There are some people who do not like the artwork for this game. I don't understand people who don't like the artwork for this game. I know that's an aesthetic thing. What I can say, though, is even I, who've liked it since the very beginning, have noticed the drastic increase in quality as the game has gone on. I mean, almost every card has a unique image on it, and Adam Ribitaro, that's his name right here, Ribitaro. Christopher Bedell's the designer, Adam Ribitaro is the artist, and Paul Bender is the third person who started Greater Than Games. He's responsible for a lot of the business side of things. So he's the business guy, the designer, and the artist. But Adam did a ton of artwork for this, whether it's the fictitious comic book covers, the promotional materials, the actual pictures and images on the covers of the boxes or on the cards. I can't even fathom how much artwork he has done for this game, and he's leveled up as an artist with each and every set. Oblivion is the best looking set that has been released, so, you know, kudos to him for working so hard. I've loved the artwork since the very beginning. It's got a very comic book feel to it. The characters are all very comic book feeling without being direct pastiches. Like, you can see elements of some characters in some. Like, for example, Citizen Dawn has an island of people with powers that are separated, and she believes that powered people are superior to non-powered people in a very Magneto-esque way. But, like, she looks completely different. Her power set is completely different. Her backstory is completely different. Her mindset is very different. Like, so even though there's like an homage there of having that, you know, powered people are a superior group, it's not the same thing. You know, there's a character with super speed, but they are not the Flash. They are also not Quicksilver. They're a totally different character. You know, there's a character in a big armored suit who is not Iron Man. There's a vigilante who flits around in the shadows, but is not Batman, and isn't, you know, there's little Easter eggs and stuff everywhere. The artwork is full of basically redesigns of famous comic book covers throughout history. that are all little Easter eggs in there. It's fantastic. I love this game, and this is officially it. This game is not having any more products released for it. The Oblivion box, the big box, the foil editions of everything is literally the end of the line for this particular game. There will still be things set in the Sentinels universe. A role-playing game just debuted at Gen Con. There was a miniatures game that was kicking around for a while that I don't believe ended up taking off the way that they hoped it would. But this isn't the end for Sentinels comics. This is just the end for Sentinels of the Multiverse, the card game, or at least the first version of it. So, that is what it is. Everything kind of comes to an end. I finally finished out my Summoner Wars. I finally now finished out my Sentinels of the Multiverse. I'm given to understand that BattleCon's next Kickstarter is probably going to be its final release for its product line, and I'm oddly okay with that. Being able to have a complete and total game with that many expansions and that much variability in it is absolutely unbelievable. And the work that everybody put into making this, the company started with 3 people. It's now a large company. I don't know exactly how many they employ, but they've merged with Dice Hate Me Games. They have a whole bunch of other amazing games that they've released, including Spirit Island, which is yet another co-op that is absolutely mind-blowingly fantastic. And I'm just, I'm really excited to see where they go from here. I'm sure that it's a little bit bittersweet for them, too, to see the end of something that they created. Of course, the sweet part is that it got far bigger than I think they probably ever imagined when they were first creating it. And I, for one, have been glad to be on the adventure the whole time since the very first game. I heard about it with the Rook City Kickstarter, which was the first Kickstarter Greater Than Games ever ran, and immediately went out and bought the original Sentinels of the Multiverse in the square box, the horrible square box that all the cards had to be baggied in because you couldn't actually stand them on their sides. And I played the heck out of that version, and when I got my upgraded enhanced edition, I sent that one off to a friend and got them hooked, and they now own nearly everything, including the digital version, the app version. One thing I will say is that there is a tracking app that you can get online that was created by Handelabra Studios that will help you track things if you don't want to use tokens or do a lot of math in your head. There's also a digital version of the game that you can get on Steam that you can play that is fantastic. They have original music for everything. They have all of the stuff, all the contents that is in it. Some of the variants you have to unlock achievement-wise, but the game exists, I don't think in its entirety. I think they still have more stuff down the line that's going to be added, but a lot of the characters are in it. I think they're all the way up through Infernal Relics, it's a fantastic implementation. If you don't like doing a lot of the math or the fiddliness of moving counters around or tracking status conditions on your own, maybe give the app a try. The game itself is fantastic, and if you have the brain space for keeping track of everything, I highly recommend the tabletop version. If you want to give it a try and you don't know that that would be for you, I highly recommend the digital version. It's one of my favorite games of all time for a reason, for multiple reasons. And I'm so glad to have my big box and to have a complete version of it that I can continue sharing with people and playing, hopefully until they, give it away to somebody in my will. But we'll see. Hopefully it's it gets a lot of enjoyment from others even after I'm done with it. But that's it for today. I just wanted to talk about Sentinels of the Multiverse again and celebrate this wonderful accomplishment that is finishing this line out and how much joy it's brought me and so many other people. Anyway, I'm going to let you guys go, and I'll see you tomorrow.